Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Katerina Tsamouri. I am journalist. There's no need for further introduction. Please allow me to welcome Mr. George Tsunis, the US Ambassador here in Greece. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for being here with us today.
It's my pleasure, Katerina.
So I would like to ask you first about the war in Gaza. Does the rift between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu slow down the process towards the end of the war?
Israel has a very staunch ally in the United States, and there isn't a rift. Since the invasion on October 7th, the United States has been very clear that Israel has a right to defend themselves. They've also been very clear that how that happens matters. So we are in active discussions on getting humanitarian aid into Gaza, which is a moral absolute, and releasing the hostages. And those are ongoing discussions.
Okay. So I'm coming, because we only have 25 minutes and I want to ask you about all topics. Coming to Ukraine, would you see additional ways for assistance? I mean, coming from Greece to Ukraine, and what kind of that? Because I heard yesterday Volodymyr Zelensky here in Delphi Forum talking about asking for more weapons in order to fight Putin.
Well, I can comment on what the United States has done. We have donated over $80 billion in assistance to Ukraine. I leave it up to the government of Greece to comment on what they can possibly do in the future, as it's not my place to opine on these things. But I will say generally that the principles of democracy, the principle of sovereign rights, these freedoms, these values, these ethoses that were born right here in ancient Greece are important. Our government stood up, a government 248 years ago based on these principles. But right now, the Ukrainians are dying for the principles of democracy and these freedoms. So I think it is absolutely essential that we come together to support Ukraine so that every Ukrainian can return back to a homeland, a Ukraine that is safe, free, democratic, whole, and entirely Ukrainian.
Coming to our bilateral relations, how would you characterize the Greek-American relations nowadays, and why didn't Prime Minister Mitsotakis end up going to the White House in the 4th of April?
Well, over the last 4 Greek governments, 3 parties, and over the last 3 presidents, 2 different parties, the relationship has grown exponentially. I could not recall another time in our history where the 2 countries had this degree of cooperation, this degree of friendship. And that is based on the fact that there are shared values. And we act in concert together. We are each other's strategic partners in the region. Every year for the last 30 years, the Greek community in the United States is only one of 2 communities. The Irish-American community is the other, where we have a White House celebration for the National Independence Day. That is quite an honor. The Prime Minister of Greece is a very, very busy person. I seem to also think the 50th anniversary of the Nea Demokratia was at that time as well. But, candidly, you would have to ask the Prime Minister about his travel priorities.
I asked you because you were the one that announced the visit to the White House, hence the interest from all Greek people. But since it's a scheduled thing? I
think sometimes plans can sometimes change, but I think we should leave it at that.
Okay. On the other hand, President Erdogan is going to visit the White House on May 9th, but you're ambassador here in Greece. And I want to ask you, what would you say to the Greek people? Do they have reasons to worry about the F-16s that Turkey seems to be getting? I'm asking that because many people ask us, the journalists, how do the terms in the so much discussed, the famous letter to Congress, protect Greek interests?
Look, we don't comment on those letters. Those are intergovernmental, and we just don't comment on them for very obvious reasons. But, you know, relations between Greece and Turkey have improved dramatically. And, you know, we encourage both of our NATO allies to continue down this course. No one benefits more than a peaceful and stable region than Greece and Turkey. There's a commonality of interests, and it's also a very important U.S. interest that both of our NATO allies continue what I have heard called a warming of relations, a rapprochement, but I think everyone would like to see the current course continue.
We hope so, but we're not that optimistic. I don't know if you followed yesterday news about the reaction of Turkey regarding a Greek announcement regarding only Greek islands in the agency. But could you please answer to the first part of my question, which was, do the Greek people have reasons to worry about the F-16s that Turkey is going to get?
Turkey has had F-16s for decades, as has Greece. I think what we should focus on the fact that our two NATO allies have had a significant warming of relations, and we should encourage that that continues.
So no need for worry. Thank you. Now, yesterday we received the LOA for the F-35s. What's next?
35 Blackhawks. We're in the process of 7 MH-60 Romeos. We've had several announcements on excess articles. In the recent past, I think there's been 1,200 M11-17s. There's been several Island-class ships that the U.S. has donated, Marks and Protector-class ships, Bradley tanks, again, C-130s, and various other things. This speaks about the U.S. commitment to modernize the Greek military, as it is an important NATO partner, and it speaks to NATO interoperability. And, you know, Greece anchors NATO's southeast flank, and that's important.
It is. When is the anticipated date for the co-production of the Constellation-class frigates?
I can't answer that question. They have started those discussions. It's very, very exciting that Greece would participate at a high level and potential co-production in Greece of Constellation frigates. That is, as they say in the United States, a very, very, very big deal. I couldn't pinpoint a day that it would start, but those discussions in earnest and serious discussions have started.
And are you optimistic that these discussions are turning into actions in the near future?
I am. You know, I think what happened in Ukraine has made all of us realize that we need to further enhance NATO's defense capabilities, the deterrence, and, you know, we can expand those capabilities by building things in Greece.
Such as?
Well, the Constellation.
Okay. Just because you said what you said right now, will the U.S. stand by the Greek side in case of another NATO ally threatens us?
Look, we don't speculate on things like this. I can tell you that the United States considers Greece an essential NATO ally, a geostrategic partner, And you know, it's a relationship that has deepened and strengthened throughout the years.
Coming to the energy field, you previously mentioned, I'm quoting you now, what an honor, that with Alexandroupoli and Revithoussa, Greece will become an energy hub and Russian energy free. Is there any tangible progress on that? I mean, in the FSRU sector or elsewhere?
Look, by nature of Greece's location and Greece's existing infrastructure, Revithoussa, the FSRU in Alexandroupoli, TAP, the interconnector with Bulgaria, and one that DEFSA is going to expand, including the second interconnector that goes into Bulgaria as well. And on April, well, soon, they'll be voting on an interconnector into North Macedonia. Greece will be able to export about 9 billion BCM. So its existing infrastructure and the enhancements that are coming is allowing Greece to redraw the map. In the last 2 years, Russian exports to Europe have dropped significantly. U.S. exports have increased. And, you know, Greece is redrawing the energy map, but not only in energy transition and energy diversity, also in decarbonization. Last year, 59% of Greece's electricity came from renewables. By 2027, it'll be 80%. The amount of renewables investments that are coming to Greece and interconnectors, Israel, Cyprus, Crete, and also possibly Gregi, which is Egypt into Attica. Renewables have a lot of velocity now. So these interconnectors that can begin to deliver electricity and this important connectivity that may begin with a fossil fuel can also not only begin with, but transition into renewables. Folks, climate crisis is real, and renewables are very important how we decarbonize. Greece is a top 10 country in renewables and is leading the way in decarbonizing. So as Greece is leading the efforts to have a south-north vertical corridor, and this is how I believe Ukraine will receive its energy in 2026, in addition to Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova. This is the vertical corridor that we've been working on, and Greece is so essential in. It is also transitioning and very quickly into a renewable play as well.
You mentioned the interconnectors and the collaboration between Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. Is it still a thing? Is it still on the table?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's received.
Despite the fact that there is an ongoing war?
Yes. The EU has provided $700 million in assistance. So, you know, as President Biden says, don't tell me what your values are or your priorities are, show me your budget and I'll tell you what they are. And there are ongoing conversations with the U.S. International DFC, which put $125 million to reopen up Elefsina shipyard to possibly provide equity and debt into this interconnector as well. It's an important U.S. interest, and it's really important that we deleverage Gazprom. We get Russia off of Europe's neck, and we limit Russia's ability to do harm. Let's be very, very clear. It is energy exports that drive Russia's ability to invade sovereign nations.
Now, Greece is going to host the upcoming week Our Ocean Conference. First of all, are you going to attend?
I am.
Okay. Could you please tell us more about this conference, why it is important, what happened after the collaboration of Mr. Kerry and Greece on that field?
Well, this was a brainchild of then Secretary Kerry to protect our oceans. 71% of the mass in Earth is oceans. And I was present when we had the meeting with then Foreign Minister Dendias, and we officially asked Greece to host, and the minister gladly accepted. This is a global conference to not only shine a light on how important our oceans are, but also countries around the world are coming with resources and expertise to discuss overfishing, to protect our oceans, to make sure that we're not putting plastics into our oceans as well. You know, this not only speaks about climate change issues, it also speaks to pollution issues. The oceans provide a fair amount of our food supply, and we need to make sure that we not only protect our oceans from climate change, but and the negative impacts of climate change as the oceans are rising, but also protecting our food source as well.
In terms of the U.S. trade relations, do the American companies still seek to invest in Greece? They
do. Greece has the single most important thing that U.S. companies look for. It's the intellectual capital. As I say, πανέξυπνοι σπουδασμένοι άνθρωποι είναι στην Ελλάδα. 11% of the top AI scientists in the world come from Greece. So companies like Meta, AWS, Google, I just met with senior leadership from Microsoft about an hour ago. Pfizer is over 1,000 employees in Thessaloniki, and that happened over the last couple of years. And from what they just told me, they're looking to go to 1,500 in a year. Pfizer's headquarters in New York has 2,700 people. I just went to an event with Tesla. Tesla has 2 research facilities outside of the United States in the world. One is in Toronto and the other is in Athens. So the top US companies have found Greece. So foreign direct investment is flooding into Greece. And this is important because this speaks to prosperity. It speaks to upward mobility in the job market. It fundamentally speaks to something I learned from my father, that the dignity that one has from having a good job to be able to put food on the table. The Pope wrote an encyclical in 1984 on the virtues of work, and it's not just about economic remuneration, it's about self-esteem and self-actualization. When the United States government assisted 2 great US companies, Onyx and Cisco, in refurbishing and reinventing the Syros shipyard, that went from refurbishing 10 ships a year to 100. That's $250 million of impact and 40% of the economy in Syros. When we put $125 million into Elefsina, which is now going to be the biggest shipyard in the region, there's 8 ships that are currently being refurbished there. It's about to go to 12. It will go from what was 300 jobs to currently about 1,000. In the next 2 years, if we do everything right, it'll be 3,000 jobs and $2 billion in economic impact. When my friend Minister Skrekas and I went to and did the tour of it, one of the people who worked there, who could barely get part-time work, who had more hours than he possibly wanted, said to the minister, and I thank you, "Έχω ελπίδα," I have hope. So foreign direct investment is flooding here, not just from the United States, but other Western countries. But the US companies have certainly found Greece.
And that's very important. So maybe we do have a date for the co-production of the Constellation frigates, no?
I'm very hopeful, Katerina.
Okay, I'm insisting because you never know. Since we have to conclude in a couple of minutes, allow me to ask you, what is the embassy doing to support the human rights here in Greece? Because I know that you are very aware of those kind of issues. The Europe Pride is hosted by Greece this year. Please tell us more about that.
Well, I was very proud to march in the Athens Pride Parade last year. I gave one of the 3 speeches, and I marched with my embassy, and nothing made me prouder. My friend Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, and I wrote an open op-ed asking everyone to support Europride in Thessaloniki, and I will be up in Thessaloniki marching with my purple t-shirt because it's important. Love is love, and everyone should be able to love who they love, be who they are, and be accepted by everyone. And Katerina, I don't think any of us should ever put themselves in a position to seek to determine where love begins and where love ends, or commitment begins and commitment ends. We know it when we see it, and we are all God's children. We are created equal, and that we should go about understanding that we should be inclusive, that we should be hospitable to people that have left countries where they're fleeing community violence and war and oppression. My parents left poverty. I'm the son of 2 Greek immigrants. I married a woman who's the daughter of 2 Greek immigrants, and they were able to rebuild their lives in the United States. My parents left a very small village with no running water, no electricity, and an outhouse. And without any money, any language, they came to the United States and they were accepted. And they rebuilt their lives. There's 117 million displaced persons in the world, half of which are children. They are fleeing disaster. And we have an obligation as citizens of the world and people of compassion and decency to look at this as opportunity and possibility, that we welcome them, we incorporate them into society, we get people working so they're productive, they pay taxes, they contribute to the economy, we treat them with dignity, we put their children in school, we let them learn Greek and English. They are grateful, as my parents were for that opportunity. People are grateful. We have to make sure that we are drowning out the voices of hatred and the voices of divisiveness. And we need to embrace this as opportunity and possibility, as hope and love and kindness. And everything that I am advocating for, this level of inclusiveness, it's not just the right thing to do for civil society, it's the right thing to do for our economy, as we have a shortage of healthcare, agricultural, construction, tourism workers. This contributes to our economy. But this is the world that we should seek to live. Because, you know, love and inclusiveness, kindness, decency, acceptance, tolerance, you know, these are things, they're languages that the blind can see and the deaf can hear. And this is the expectation that we should have of each other. These are basic human rights, inalienable rights that are promised to us. They're part of the 4 freedoms that are promised to us. People should live, you know, without fear, but with opportunity. We're all better off if we provide a level of inclusiveness that every child, not just our children, but every child has an ability to be the best version of themselves and contribute to society.
Are we there yet?
You know, it's an asymptotic process. Our Constitution promises a more perfect union. My country is not perfect. We had a civil war that ended slavery. We had a civil rights movement. Women didn't have the right to vote until about 100 years ago in my country. We're not perfect, and I'm not here to lecture anyone. But I think in my country, I believe deeply that we provide opportunity, and every day we try to be better, and we seek a more perfect union, and we try to be a force of good in the world. No one wanted a war in Ukraine. It was brought to us. We did everything we could to avoid it. But how do we stand idle and watch another country try to change a nation's boundaries by force? How do we do that? So I believe deeply that the United States is a force of good. I want it to be a beacon. And I truly believe that it's in Greece's best interest, it's in Greece's future, that Greece benefits by looking westward, a transatlantic relationship, that Greece's collective national economic and national security is based on its relationship in the EU, NATO, and the United States. And the world owes Greece a debt of gratitude for the principles of democracy and the freedoms that were birthed here. But democracy works when it works for everyone. And when I speak about democracy in terms of values, it's also opportunities, because people who live in democracies, they generally are able to live their lives that are more opportunistic, that are safer. And we need to make sure that collectively we're working to make sure that everyone has these opportunities. So when the world owes Greece a debt of gratitude for the principles of self-determination of government, that for the first time in Greece, the concept of how and by whom we shall be governed was born here. We owe Greece that debt of gratitude. But I also now think that Greece benefits by standing in strong partnership with the United States, a partnership based on values, not only common interest, but common values. And the United States benefits from its close friendship with Greece, and I also think Greece benefits from its strong relationship with the United States.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much. It was an honor.
The honor was mine.
Thank you.